I mean, who'd want to interview me?
Well, being the school's top newspaper reporter.
A man named Chang suddenly runs into a nearby factory while he's being chased by some mercenaries sent by a rich man named Mr. Black. Chang eventually stops to rest, but before he can catch his breath, Black and his mercenaries arrive at the scene. Chang quickly runs away to hide, and as Black gets out of his car, he instructs his mercenaries to do whatever they can to find Chang and retrieve the amulet around his neck. As Chang moves around slowly to avoid being seen, Black speaks loudly and warns him to give up.
The amulet is finally mine.
He says Chang has been running for far too long, and he's ready to spare Chang's life if he gives up the amulet and walks away. Chang still stays hidden, but he hears Black talking about paying him for his struggles. Black adds that he's not a cruel man, and he has no wish to shed blood or kill anyone, even though it's something he wouldn't mind doing. Almost immediately, one of Black's mercenaries, Shado, shoots Chang with a poisoned dart that weakens him. Chang slowly walks around and stops in front of Black, who looks pleased. Black then tells Chang to let go of the amulet because there's nothing else he can do. After Chang takes off the amulet, he drops it inside the drain hole right in front of him, and Black looks very pissed.
Idiots.
Interestingly, the amulet goes through the drain and eventually gets stuck inside a stream at a nearby park. The next day, a boy named Manny stands in front of a mirror and practices how he'll introduce himself to the students at his new school. Manny and his parents have just moved to Connecticut, and he's trying his best to make a good first impression at school. As he continues practicing how to talk to the kids at his school, he tells his dog, Rufus, that making a good first impression is very important. Almost immediately, his dad knocks on the bathroom door and complains that he has been inside for a while. Manny says he's just worried about making new friends, but his dad tells him to just be himself.
At the moment, this house only has one working bathroom, Manny.
Manny asks if that's all his dad will say, but his mom shows up and says that being himself isn't bad advice. She adds that he looks cute, and she's sure many people would want to be his friend. Rufus barks just as she says this, and she jokes that even Manny's dog agrees. Shortly after, Manny arrives at school and looks nervous because there are many new faces around. Suddenly, a girl named Paige approaches him and asks for his opinion on the school's recent changes to the color codes. Manny says he doesn't really have an opinion because he was in Texas last week, and Paige realizes that he's a new student.
You got.
Son?
She then introduces herself as a reporter for a newspaper called the Taft Tattler. Manny also says his name, and Paige welcomes him to the school. She then talks about the upcoming spring dance and says she wouldn't mind getting some theme suggestions from him before Manny can say anything. She asks what gets him up and going every morning. Manny says it's his dog, and Paige likes this. She thanks Manny for the idea and says she'll suggest a dog theme to the organizing committee. After this, they walk into the school building, and Paige says she's sure Manny will do just fine.
Remember, Rufus, you only get one chance to make a first impression.
Manny looks pleased and says he's always available if she wants to interview him. Paige thanks him again and says he'll fit right in at the school. As Manny says he's sure of it, he accidentally bumps into a ladder being used by the school painter. The ladder also knocks down some paint, which pours directly on Manny's body. Manny feels embarrassed because the other kids are now laughing at him and taking pictures of him. When Manny returns home, he tells his parents that he wants to go back to their old house in Texas. Manny's parents say they can't do that because their jobs are close to their new home. Manny's mom also mentions that even though Manny's first day didn't go well,
Connecticut's where our jobs are now.
she's sure things will get better. Manny laments that the whole school saw what happened to him, and he doesn't know if he'll be able to recover from that. As he adds that he has no new friends in the town, his mom says he shouldn't be saying that when he has Rufus. Manny realizes that she's right, and he suggests taking Rufus out for a walk. His parents agree to let him go, and he heads out with Rufus. While they're playing football on the way, Manny kicks the ball into the stream at the park. Rufus immediately heads in to take it, but he also sees the amulet and shows it to Manny. Manny assumes that it's just a random necklace, and he puts it around Rufus's neck while calling him the coolest dog in town. That night, when they return home, Manny tells Rufus that he can't believe he'd have to go to school tomorrow after what happened today. He then says goodnight to Rufus and mentions that his dog is the only friend he has in the new town. He adds that he just wishes Rufus were the kind of friend who could talk back, be there for him at school, and make his life not generally lame.
Rufus, you ready to start our day?
After he turns off the light, the amulet around Rufus's neck glows strangely. The next morning, Manny wakes up and sees a strange boy in his room. Manny looks scared and asks who the boy is. The boy says he's Rufus and that he has always wanted to try on some of Manny's clothes. Manny looks confused and says that the boy can't be Rufus. Almost immediately, Rufus says he has got an itch and he jumps on Manny's bed. He then scatters the bed while trying to scratch his body. As he also uses one of his legs to scratch his ear, Manny realizes that Rufus has really transformed into a boy.
You gotta give me that necklace. I have to turn you into a dog again. Hey!
He also remembers his wish from last night and wonders if the necklace has something to do with it. He then says he has to change Rufus back into a dog. Rufus refuses to let him take off the amulet because he likes being a boy, but Manny says he can't stay like that. Before Manny's dad enters the room, Manny takes off the amulet and Rufus becomes a dog again. Manny's dad then tells Manny to stop messing around with Rufus because it's almost time for school. After Manny's dad leaves, Manny puts the amulet back on for Rufus and wonders what he'll do about the situation. As he contemplates taking it off again, Rufus begs him not to do that because he still has a couple of things he wants to do as a boy.
Unless you give me that necklace. Hey, no, hey, no.
Manny thinks about this for a while and says he can't even take Rufus to school. Rufus doesn't think there's a reason why he can't go to school, and he reminds Manny that his wish was for a friend who could follow him to school. Manny remembers this and says he'll try to make it work. Rufus then complains about the clothes he's currently wearing, and Manny gives him other options to try. Shortly after, Manny gets ready for school and sneaks out with Rufus, who still continues acting like a dog. Manny then tells Rufus that if their plan is going to work, he'll have to act like a normal boy, not a dog.
Problem solved.
As they head to school, they see a man walking his dog, Larry. Rufus looks happy to see Larry, and he also tells Larry's owner to change Larry's current diet because it gives him gas. The man looks confused, but Manny quickly drags Rufus away and tells him to act normal. As Rufus says he can be normal, he sees a squirrel and looks scared. Manny says it's just a squirrel, but Rufus points out that most people don't realize how evil squirrels are. Manny doesn't care much about this, and he says they have to head to school before they're late.
Are we going for a walk? This is what I always do when we go for a walk.
When they arrive at school, Manny tells his teacher that Rufus is his cousin. He adds that Rufus is in town for a few weeks, and that's why he had to bring him to school. Suddenly, Rufus says he can smell a cat, and as he starts acting strangely, the other kids find this funny. The teacher also thinks Rufus is weird, but she says she doesn't get paid enough to care. She then agrees to let Rufus join the class, and as he sits down, he starts doing weird things that make everyone laugh. Rufus quickly becomes a popular student, and after the class ends, some of Manny's classmates tell him that his cousin is cool. Manny looks pleased, and Rufus asks if he has been good so far. Manny says he has, and Rufus asks if they can head out to play football. Manny says they still have more classes, and Rufus looks disappointed. Much later, during lunch break, all the students head to the cafeteria. Rufus makes a mess with his food, and even though Manny looks concerned, the other students just laugh about it. Shortly after, Rufus does more interesting things to get the kids at the school to like him. He also joins the football team and trains as a goalkeeper. Surprisingly, Rufus happens to be a very good goalkeeper, and the coach looks impressed. A while later, Rufus sees a squirrel and chases it out of the school. Manny looks shocked and immediately runs after him so he won't get lost. Interestingly, Black is in the neighborhood with Shadow and another guard named Dim Sum. Black says they have to find the amulet, but Shadow and Dim Sum mention that they've searched nearly everywhere for it. As Dim Sum says they'll need a miracle to find it, Rufus runs onto the road and nearly gets hit by Black's car. Rufus looks terrified and stops in front of the car. and Black suddenly sees the amulet around his neck. Black looks happy to see it, and as Manny takes Rufus off the road, the evil businessman jokes that they really got a miracle. While Rufus is still looking for the squirrel, Manny says he has to stop because it's not worth getting hit by a car. Rufus insists that squirrels are very dangerous, but Manny still doesn't understand why he's so obsessed with them. He then offers to take Rufus to a nearby supermarket to buy his favorite food. Rufus looks happy about this, and he forgets about the squirrel. While they're in the supermarket, Paige comes in, and Manny quickly hides because he doesn't want her to see him.
I love kittens. All dogs secretly do.
Rufus asks who she is, and Manny says she's just a girl who was nice to him on his first day. Rufus asks if she's his friend, but Manny says she's not. He adds that he would actually like to be her friend, but he's afraid that she might not like him. Almost immediately, Rufus calls Paige to come over, and Manny looks shocked. Paige recognizes Rufus as Manny's cousin, and he confirms this. As he's about to mention that Manny is scared of talking to her, Manny quickly comes out of hiding and stops him. Paige looks happy to see Manny, and she says that he and his cousin are now the most popular students in school.
Is you two.
She adds that they even got featured in some of her recent stories. Manny looks happy about this, but Paige eventually says she has to go home to feed her goldfish. After she leaves the store, Manny and Rufus also head out. Manny then calls Rufus a good wingman, but Rufus doesn't understand what this means. Shortly after, Black sees them and alerts Shado and Dim Sum, who are hiding in a tree on the opposite side of the road. As Shado is about to swing over to confront the boys, Dim Sum says he'll do it. However, he eventually bumps into a passing truck, and Shado looks disappointed. That night, Rufus shows Manny a poster he picked up at school for the upcoming dance. When Manny sees it, he realizes that Paige went with the dog theme for the design, and he looks happy. Rufus thinks Manny should ask her out, but he says he's not sure about it. Almost immediately, Manny's mom enters the room, and Rufus quickly hides. Manny's mom asks if Manny has seen Rufus, and he says he hasn't. She then complains that Rufus has been biting her shoes, but Manny doesn't say anything else.
Yes, she is. Whatever.
After she leaves the room, Rufus comes out of hiding and asks Manny why he doesn't want to ask Paige out to the dance. Before he can respond, he gets a call from Paige, who says she wants to interview the school's most interesting student. Manny thinks she's talking about him, but Paige says she wants to interview Rufus. Manny looks disappointed by this, and he just stares at Rufus, who is making a mess with the popcorn in a bowl. The next day, on the way to school, Rufus sounds surprised when he hears that Paige wants to interview him. Manny still doesn't look happy about it, and Rufus asks if he's annoyed about something. Manny says he's not, and as they continue their walk to school, Dim Sum tries to attack them, but a moving truck hits him again. Later that day, during recess, Paige interviews Rufus just as planned, and Manny stays behind a tree to watch them. After asking a few questions about Rufus's recent popularity, Paige asks who he'll be taking to the dance.
He had determination.
Rufus says he has been meaning to talk to her about it, and as Manny hears this, he looks pissed because he thinks Rufus is going to ask her out to the dance. Shortly after, in the cafeteria, Manny sees Rufus playing with some kids. Rufus then reminds the kids to vote for the best in show award at the dance. The next day at the dance, Rufus looks happy to be there, and he says he can't wait for the winner of the best in show award to be announced. He says he also has a big surprise planned, and Manny says he knows it's Paige. Rufus looks surprised and asks how he knows, but Manny just says he's going to get some punch. Following this, Rufus dances with Paige and some other kids, and Manny looks annoyed. Shortly after, Rufus comes over to ask if Manny saw his dance moves. Manny says he did, and he's sure Rufus's date will write about the dumb dance in her newspaper. Rufus looks confused, but Manny complains about how moving to a new town has been hard for him. He adds that Rufus has made things worse since he put on the necklace.
And ever since you put that necklace...
Rufus looks sad when he hears this, and Manny calls him a bad friend before walking away. Rufus eventually runs out of the hall, and as Paige comes over to meet Manny, he tells her that her date just left. Paige looks confused and says he's standing right in front of her, but Manny asks what she means. She then explains that Rufus asked her out for Manny because he was scared of doing it himself. As Manny looks shocked, the DJ announces that he he and Paige are the winners of the Best in Show award. They both head to the stage looking surprised, and Manny says he thought Rufus was going to win. One of the students then mentions that Rufus told everyone to vote for Manny and Paige. The DJ then asks how Manny feels about his prize. Manny says he feels like a dirty dog, and he can't accept the award because of how he just treated his friend. As he walks away, Paige also says she can't accept the award because she's not really a fan of such things. She then follows Manny,
Popularity contests, objectifying and demeaning.
who looks worried because he doesn't know where Rufus is. He says there's something he has to tell Paige, but she says she already knows that Rufus is a dog. Manny looks surprised, but Paige says Rufus told her. Since she now knows about Rufus and the magical necklace, he tells her to help find his best friend. As they head to different sections of the building, Shadow and Dim Sum suddenly show up behind Manny. Before Manny can do anything, he gets kidnapped and taken into Black's car downstairs. Meanwhile, Paige finds Rufus, and they see Manny being taken away by the bad guys. Rufus says he's sure they work for the squirrels, but Paige says they have to focus on finding Manny. She adds that she thinks the necklace is very powerful, and someone is trying to use Manny to get it from Rufus. Rufus realizes that she might be right, and he says he can follow Manny's scent to wherever the bad men are taking him. As he then turns into a dog and tracks the scent, Paige follows him.
Did you walk the dog?
Nope. Did you?
Elsewhere, Manny's parents figure out that they've not seen Rufus in the past few days. As they look worried that their son's dog is missing, Manny's mom remembers tagging Rufus with a GPS chip a while ago. This ends up being quite useful, and as she finds Rufus's location, she suggests going after him. Elsewhere, Manny is tied to a chair in an abandoned factory, where Black reveals that he's using Manny as bait to catch Rufus and retrieve the amulet. After a while, Rufus and Paige arrive at the factory, and it doesn't take long for them to figure out why Black kidnapped Manny. Paige then comes up with an idea to get Black's guards trapped, and Rufus gets ready for action. Almost immediately, Paige comes out of hiding and introduces herself as a reporter who wants to ask Black some questions. As he's about to take her out of the factory, Rufus pulls a lever to dump dog food on the guards and trap them. One of the guards doesn't get affected, and Black tells him to catch Rufus, who quickly runs away.
Get that dog!
As Paige then tries to free Manny, he tells her to go and help Rufus before Black finds him. Before Paige can do this, Black's guard stops her, but Manny frees himself and hangs a hook on the man's clothes. The man gets pulled up to the ceiling, and Manny and Paige look happy. Rufus soon finds them, and Manny says sorry for the things he said earlier. Rufus then says he wants Manny to know that he'll always be his friend, regardless of whether he's a boy or a dog. Suddenly, Black shows up and says he wants the amulet. As he tries to shoot Manny with a poisoned dart, Rufus jumps in front of it and gets hit. Before Black can reach for the amulet, Paige releases the hooked guard to land on him. Manny looks worried that Rufus is hurt, but he realizes that the dart hit the amulet. This makes him happy, but Paige notices that the amulet is now broken. As she says that Rufus is back to being a normal dog, Manny says he doesn't mind because Rufus is still his best friend. Just then, Manny's parents reach the factory and notice that something seems off.
Yeah, I'm better dead.
So they call the police to come to the scene. Days later, Black goes to meet his superior, who happens to be a squirrel. Black says he barely escaped before the cops arrived, and that he wants his boss to give him one more chance to retrieve the amulet. The squirrel seems pissed that Black has failed him too many times, and he throws him into a pit. Elsewhere, Paige hangs out with Rufus and Manny at the park. She says that even though the story of Rufus being a dog has been published in her newspaper, no one believes a single word of it. Manny still thinks she's a good writer, and she asks if he thinks Rufus misses being a boy. Manny says he doesn't think Rufus cares about it, and that he might still get to be a boy one day.
Boy or dog, he just wants to be my friend.
Suddenly, the amulet glows strangely, but Manny and Paige just continue playing with Rufus. After Manny discovers a strange amulet at the park, he realizes that it has the power to turn his dog, Rufus, into a boy. Things initially go well for him and Rufus until they become targets for Mr. Black, who is ready to do anything to get the amulet. Manny eventually gets kidnapped in the process, and Rufus and Paige work together to save him and take down Black.